live. I have a friend in the COSITALKS studio, a little impromptu guest for this evening. With me, I've got Curt Wainman from Kenney Orthopaedics. Welcome, Curtis, to the hot seat.
Hey.
All right, guys, for those of you watching the replay, you know what I'm going to tell you, right? Give me a shout out in the comment section, press replay, give me your question. I do go back and check everything. You guys have been awesome because I know some of you just can't make it on a Wednesday, even at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So go ahead and put your questions in there and we will get it. And those of you who are watching me live, I'm starting to see some numbers tick up there. Y'all need to give me a shout out. Let me know who you are, where you're from, and more importantly, what's in your coffee mug. We told Curtis that we're going to let him slide by this evening, okay? Because he doesn't have his coffee mug. So he's going to get a COSITALKS coffee mug after we're done with this, right? Yeah, man. We're good. We're good. What you got going on back there in your background there, Curtis?
Oh, it's all my Chicago Bears stuff. So I'm from Illinois, and I've been collecting Chicago Bears memorabilia since I was about 3 years old. So I've got the ticket stubs from the first game my dad ever took me to.
That's cool.
Challenged here. I got the bear claw from that first game, everything. I've even got, for Christmas last year, to my left, I got my autographed Walter Payton card and then replica tickets from the 85 Bears Super Bowl. So in my makeshift man cave / office tonight. So
There you go. There you go. Okay. Actually, I don't think we've had anybody from Chicago, or at least nobody that's put in the comment section that they're from Chicago.
Yeah. Well, they're all probably too smart to admit it these days.
All right, we got David coming in from South Carolina drinking his Coke. We got Eric drinking his RC Cola. I haven't heard of RC Cola in a long time. Long time. We got Mark S. You know it's me, man. You know it's me, Mark. We got Jess coming in from Wisconsin drinking water. And Mark is like, Jets. All right. We got Kimberly is freezing in Utah. We're actually getting into the 50s here in Florida. So I know y'all up north are going to be like, ooh, not in good shape right now. Yeah. But you're not in Chicago right now. You're in Indiana, yes?
Yep. I'm in Indianapolis.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. I'm like always trying to remember where everybody's from. Okay, guys, we got some folks jumping on board. So, guys, we really have an interesting show, and this is courtesy of Curtis. He brought to my attention a very interesting article that was recently published, and it's going to be a bit of a hot topic tonight. A very hot topic. I think we're going to be getting a lot of feedback on this one. So, guys, tonight I'm actually going to be depending upon you all to give me your feedback and your thoughts on this article that we're going to be talking about this evening. Let's see, we got Kathy on board drinking her lemonade. Alexis from Oregon. We got Liz. Oh, Liz, I saw your picture the other day. You look amazing in those bars, girl. You are killing it. We got John. Hey, John in Georgia drinking his Mountain Dew. Zero Mountain Dew. Okay. Bonnie. Hey, Bonnie. Bustelo. Brian. There we go. Cheers. That's my boy that drinks Cuban coffee right there. All right, guys, we are going to give you guys another few seconds. Oh, there's my Johnny V. Johnny, I was waiting for your entrance. Hey, Harsh, thanks for joining. We've got Tom McIntyre. So Tom was kind enough to send me some new tread for a running blade. He actually had extra tread and he sent it to me. And Tom, I found a new home for it today. And I can tell you what, that person, when they receive it, is going to be very, very happy. So Tom, thank you again for sending that to me, and so I could send it to someone else. We got Bill on board. We've got, Harivansh, dude, haven't seen you in a long time. He is listening in from India. So thank you for listening in, Harivansh. I haven't seen you in a long time. How are things going with your capital knee? We've got Marianne in South Dakota eating supper and drinking an electrolyte drink. All right, guys, we've got a nice crew on board. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. For those of you joining me for the first time this evening, welcome. My name is Cosi. I'm a physical therapist, amputee specialist. And with me, pointing in the wrong direction, with me is Curt Wainman. He is a physical therapist. So we've got two PTs on board this evening that y'all can shoot your questions to. And he is with Kenney Orthopaedics. So I am going to go ahead and let Curtis take it over and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, hi, everybody. Cosi, thanks for having me tonight. I was introduced to you earlier this year and been a big fan of everything you've done for the amputee community. It's so nice to find a cherished heart and mind helping the community out. It's just amazing what you've done. So I kind of stumbled, no pun intended, into the world of working with amputees. I went to school in Iowa to St. Ambrose. Shout out to my bees. And always thought I'd go into sports med, orthopedics, and was supposed to do all my clinical rotation in Peoria, Illinois, and got placed in Indianapolis at the neurospecialty program. And I remember the day like it was yesterday. My CI said, Curt, we've got an individual who is a bilateral. They're missing both his legs above the knee, who's also had multiple strokes affecting his left side. And you're going to teach him how to walk. And my heart sunk into my stomach. Like, I'm on my clinical. I'm not even entry level. This is week 2. Like, how am I going to teach this guy how to walk? And I remember walking into the room, and this guy is sitting there on the arm bike, just working out, getting warmed up. And he looked at me and he said, you're going to teach me how to walk? And I said, I'm going to do my best. He says, okay, let's do it. And for the next 7 weeks, I was studying my notes every night for him, so passionate about his plan of care. And I fell in love with studying everything I could about prosthetics. And we had a lot of success. I left, got a phone call a few months later about them saying, hey, when you graduate, you want to come back and work? I said, yeah, I'd love to. I come back and work. Ambrose, we graduate in December. Come back and work in early January. February, he's on my caseload for eval. We start working together and progressing from stubbies to knees. Had a lot of success. A lot of trial and error. Of course, first time working with amputees. New clinician, and I owe a lot of my success, a lot of my current job to working with him, his trust in me. So he is just he's been a big inspiration. Unfortunately, he had to have surgery on his pancreas and had a heart attack during the surgery. So I lost a good friend. But he inspired me to always do more for patients and go above and beyond, because it showed how much somebody that takes an active role in someone's plan of care can really make a difference. And they had a good amputee program there. And with my passionate energy and lack of a social life, you could say, I delved in and built the program up to being a pretty well established, and got well connected with all the prosthetic groups around here. And we had at Fort Bend had an amazing amputee program where I got connected with Kenney Orthopaedics.
Mm-hmm.
And last year, after COVID kind of made healthcare quite challenging, I got on the phone and was talking to them about, hey, how can we improve healthcare? So many people are falling through the cracks. They're getting discharged from PT before I think they're done. Like, we need more time. We need more programs in the area so people can do more. They don't just want to walk at home. People want to exercise. They want to get back to playing with their kids, and we need more support groups. And they offered me a job this March to develop those programs, help with educational courses for other therapists to become passionate. And so now I'm in a role where I can go around the whole state, no longer get to treat patients, but I can help other therapists treat patients. And I can also I can mentor. I can help patient if they're in a sticking point and they need a little bit of advice, help them get connected to resources. I got a whole binder in Google Drive of information that if someone needs something, I can connect them. And I'm just able, that's how I discovered you, was, hey, there's this therapist down in Florida that's got all these great resources. If you need some exercises, here's Cosi's Strong Body Program, follow these, you're going to get where you need to be. And it's been a lot of fun. So I'm very passionate about what I'm able to do. And it's just been so much fun in this new role to take my big old heart and my tiny little brain and use it to the best of my ability to help everybody out. So
guys, if you're ever wondering if there are other PTs out there who are passionate about helping those in the limb loss community, Exhibit A, right there.
We're out here.
And we're out there, and those of us who are in this community and willing to help this community or wanting to help this community, this is something that we're extra passionate about. So I was so excited when Curtis reached out and said, hey, this is who I am, and I watched your show, and how can we help each other out? So for me, this is just a wonderful connection right here. So thank you for all the support. So we got, I know, right, Andrea. So Andrea is one of my occupational therapists who joins so faithfully every week. And I love having her on the show. And she's like, dang, dream job. And I'm like, I know, right? Definitely. This is just a wonderful way to use your clinical skills, right? So let's see. Gwen is saying, super proud of this guy.
It's my cousin.
We got Sean Brown on board. We got Kay on board. Todd is saying, "What's up, Curtis? I got to get on a plane to Baltimore and just finished watching an AWS program. We'll watch the replay." So, Todd, we're going to hold you to it. All right. And there's Steven saying, "Thank you." So, guys, this evening, right, we're going to talk about an article that was published in Amplitude magazine. I don't know if you guys read this publication. I love this publication. We have a couple of major publications for the limb loss community, and this is the most recent one. I think it's a beautiful cover with the pinup girl. I think it's just a beautiful. I haven't had a chance to read the cover article just yet, but on the online version, right, there are some articles that are not in the printed version. So if you haven't been to the online version, you'll want to do that. There was an article written, and I'm kind of calling it up right now so I can just kind of cue myself, right? And the article is titled, "Research Many Doctors Are Biased Against Disabled Patients." Right? So about a week ago, Curtis emailed me this and he said, "What are your thoughts?" And I'm like, well, that's certainly a statement right there to make, right? So, hey, comadre, what's going on? We got Chuck on board. It's a full house tonight. So guys, I'm just going to kind of skim through the main points of the article, and Curtis, let me know if I'm missing anything. But in this article, it's a short article, and you know what? Let me just go ahead and do my fancy copy and pasting so you guys can have a look at this article as well. And I wish I could have had time. I didn't have time to reach out to Larry, the editor of Amplitude, because we would have had him on. That would have been fun to have him on the show. But so Larry, if you're watching, my apologies. We kind of pulled this together at the last minute. So there's the article, guys. Take a time to right click and save it for later to read later. But basically it was saying that they're noticing that there's a possible bias against folks with disabilities who are seeking healthcare. Right? So basically, if you have a physical disability, there's a greater chance that your doctor might be discriminating somehow against you and not providing the quality level of health care, right, that you deserve. And then the flip side to the article, and I like the fact that it presented both sides, right? It was saying that a lot of doctors are just saying how the healthcare system is kind of making this happen because of the fact that we are, as clinicians, we are being pressured for productivity. We are being pressured for 15-minute increments to be seen to see our patients. And in that time, there's just so much to cover that how can you possibly address all the needs of the patient, right? Hey, compadre, what's going on? So, it's one of those articles where as a clinician, I had a knee-jerk reaction saying, hey, wait a second, that's not fair. But then from the patient side of it, I'm going, is this happening? So Curtis, did I cover everything in that article? Did I more or less kind of hit the talking points there?
I think you hit it all. Yeah.
So guys, go ahead and feel free. You all have always been a wonderful group, very respectful group, and we're all good about being able to have conversations here. So go ahead and put it in the comment section. Do you feel that your doctor, whether it's your primary care doctor, whether it's your physical medicine and rehabilitation PMR doctor, your physiatrist, your pain management doctor, your endocrinologist, your rheumatologist, if you feel that they are spending enough time with you and that they are addressing all of your needs, including the needs that are attributed to your amputation, do you feel like you're receiving that level of care? So go ahead and start putting it in the comment section while we hear Curtis's thoughts.
So I did a little digging into this article and just kind of looking at the history behind it. One of the really interesting parts behind it is they started talking about the time aspect. And, with trying to be ADA compliant, a lot of places, when it got down to a lot of the private practices, a lot of the physicians were saying they just don't have the resources to be compliant to allow access for people that need more space for like power chairs, wheelchairs, ADA compliant ramps that aren't, have the right slope to incline ratio that was super steep, which I know is a huge obstacle for a lot of individuals just even in their homes. If you don't have a front yard that is only so long, you can't get a ramp that can get you in your house. So some businesses can't get those put in. I know I have always worked within a healthcare system, so I'm reading this thinking, how do you guys not have access to scales that can, people can get out of the wheelchairs and be weighed on and this and that. And then I think, well, some doctors are private practice and they don't have access to this. And you're right. My knee jerk was, well, this article is going to be, chaotic. But then thinking of it, some doctors do own their own businesses and they can't afford, or it could be very challenging to readjust everything to get this population in. But then thinking of it to be labeled as bias and to give that negative connotation to it, individuals have to understand that doctors inherently, I think everyone inherently has a good side, and they want to do their best work. They want to care. They want to give good treatment. But when they're unable to, do they want to turn somebody away because they feel like they don't want to see them, or they feel like they can't give adequate care and somebody else could give them better treatment? I think the right phrasing and scripting when discharging a patient or turning them away would be appropriate. Like, hey, we're not able to treat you, but this office down the hall has the right facility that would better serve your needs, would be a more appropriate discussion. And I don't know if this survey or this study allow doctors to kind of use that phrasing.
I give that. And it's interesting that you brought up immediately the physical aspect of just even getting to the doctor. And that hadn't even occurred to me, but it's should have occurred to me. And I'm just thinking myself, like I have a mobile practice. So I mainly practice out of one physical therapy clinic, right? But I travel to prosthetist clinics and treat patients there. And I'm thinking of that one clinic and I go, yeah, I mean, it's in a medical center, right? Those little strip malls that have all the doctor's offices, but even the physical therapy clinic that I practice out of, there have been several times where I've had to go out into the parking lot and help my patient get into my clinic because the wheelchair ramp was like 10 doors down, right? And they can't walk to get up the ramp and they're not doing the curb just yet. And I'm sitting there going, good gravy, they're coming to physical therapy and we're having a hard time, right? And even in my waiting room, because it's a very small waiting room, right, negotiating everything there. So just even from a physical standpoint. So let me just read some of these comments that have been coming in. Let's see. Sean says, and the health insurance, right? Large part of it is that. No worries, Sean. Marianne says, my doctor is great. Kay says, I go to the Air Force Base up here in Anchorage for my care, and I only get one issue per visit, 10 minutes. And that's a tough one. And I have to admit, even with my own personal health care, right? If I go in for my physical, just my annual well-check physical, I can't talk about other issues in that appointment. I have to make a separate appointment, which is absolutely ridiculous, right? 2 months later, right? And that's true. And that's an insurance thing. That's purely insurance-based because then your doctor cannot bill for the time spent with you talking about those things. And that I'm not on military insurance and I understand that. So yeah, that's a Mark says, what's the baseline for a primary to help? What do you think they should be doing? So Mark, that's a pretty broad question. It's a very good question. My initial reaction would be, well, did you leave the visit feeling that all your needs were addressed and all your questions were answered? That's the thing. That's the key thing. Or did you feel like the doctor was like inching their way out the door and you're like, but, so if you have that feeling, then that to me is the baseline. So it could mean maybe you only have 2 questions about managing your glucose, or maybe you have several questions because you need several issues addressed. So it's that. Let's see. Stephen says, I have a great doctor, Dr. Weiss at Brooks Rehab in Jacksonville, Florida. He spends so much time with patients that your appointment will be an hour late sometimes, but he goes above and beyond, right? We got Susan from Canada listening in. We got Van Gregory coming in from Texas. Oh, thank you, Mark. He says, I love your cozy way. It's little, but I love that clinic I work out of. Let's see. Denise says, my primary care doctor no longer practices medicine because of the expected quota machine from insurance. He really wanted that time with his patients and he spent the extra time with his patients, but started to feel the pressure of insurance wanting numbers. I was devastated because he was really amazing. Susan says, I have an old school doc. I can talk whatever I'd like, even off topic. There you go. Harsh says, my primary care sold his practice to corporate, ended up leaving them as was pressured to turn around with a number of visits. So we're starting to see a little theme here, and we're seeing the smoking gun. It's really not that hard to find, right? So Curtis, I know you're not like actively seeing patients, but did you feel this as a physical therapist when you were working in the field, working with?
So 100%, because so before the pandemic, I was doing everything I can marketing to every prosthetic group I could. One, because we have so many amazing prosthetists around here, in Indianapolis, we're blessed with just an overabundance of good companies around here. So I had a good relationship with so many people, and that's how I got my job. Kenney, and I had a great relationship there, and I was trying to specialize 100% for amputee rehab because that's where my passion was, and I knew when I had a caseload full of amputees, I was excited to come to work, planning it out, and I was pumped. And I was also a great man, I don't want to say I was great. I enjoyed working in the orthopedics. I can't pat myself on the back for everything. But the quota for orthopedics, half-hour sessions, getting them in as quick as you can. And, the company I worked for was great because they didn't make us dovetail people off. And, patients got one-on-one treatment. We didn't have to see anybody two at once. So I was very fortunate for that because I don't have the attention span to split it. If someone's with me, they're going to get one-on-one treatment and you get Curt's undivided attention. I was terrible about doing my notes because when patients came to PT, they got the PT. They did not get a guy behind a computer. You can do your long arc quads at home. If you can do your exercises at home, but when you need hands-on physical treatment, you're going to get the hands-on stuff that you deserve because that's what real good treatment is. When you can do the basics without any guarding, you can do that without, that's my philosophy. But coming down the line, they wanted to get more patients in. So if you had a cancellation being backfilled, you just kind of felt this collapse around you. And then COVID hit, and then all of a sudden budgets became tighter. My support group no longer was able to meet because of the pandemic. And then, funding for that stuff became limited. And then all the extra perks of extra time for this and that became less and less. And that's what became so challenging. All my hopes and dreams of being able to develop groups and resources, exercise classes, any additional things for patients, the extra time to, help somebody get out to their car was limited because that 5 minutes you could be getting something else done, and it became harder and harder. So.
Yep. And I'll tell you what, guys, I'm going to give you a little insight, and I'm going to give you a little insight into the physical therapy side. And I know that doctors also have this pressure. So when we bill for our services, and Curtis, it's been a while since I've done insurance-based practice. So you're going to have to correct me if I'm not up to date on my Medicare. So for example, if I'm doing a technique called joint mobilization, okay, so if I feel like there's a tightness in a joint and I have to get in there and mobilize or even possibly manipulate that joint, right? According to Medicare, is it still the 8-minute rule?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay. So, and guys, this is just a generalization, right?
Yeah.
But in order for me to be able to bill for that, I have to be performing it for 8 minutes. And correct me if I'm wrong, is this an outdated?
Well, it's like the first 15 minutes, and then it's like
Right.
8 after that. It's 8 minutes, but it's tricky in the first beginning. It's like the first 15 is at least that, and then 23 minutes can be broken into 2 units, but it's all broken into units, and that's how your productivity is based. And those meetings would just turn my stomach because I'm not a factory worker. I'm not going to crank out productivity because my focus is patient care. And I hung my hat on my metrics of how satisfied my patients were because they liked me, I was personable, and they knew that they were getting taken care of very well. I mean, I had patients that when it was icy out, I was out there in the front of the clinic before the snow crew could get there at 3:00, making sure that it was cleared. Me and Bob were clearing the way so patients didn't slip. And it was if I had a cancellation, I would never skip someone's patient care to do that. But we make sure people were taken care of, and that's what it's about.
And you can see, guys, like with the rules, and the reason why I'm not up to date on my rules is because I don't accept insurance in my practice. And we're going to get into that in a few minutes because I want you guys just to understand this is what's happening this is what your clinicians are going through. So going back to that, how Curtis was explaining how we break up the minutes into units, but basically something like a joint mobilization, I might only need to do that for a minute. That's really how long that particular treatment strategy lasts. But if I don't do it for more than a certain amount of time, I can't charge for it. Now, why does that matter? It's only a minute of my time. Yeah. But the thing is, if I do 6 treatment strategies and I only do them for a minute because that's all you need, then that time starts to add up. And even though I've spent an hour with the patient, the insurance company will only reimburse my clinic for 15, 20 minutes of actual treatment. right? And I don't know if that makes sense, guys. If I'm not making sense, put that in the comments say, Cosi, you're not making a lick of sense, right? So what happens is that clinicians, because they're being pressured to have productivity to be able to charge for these billable units, they're foregoing some of these treatments that might be necessary, right? Or they're going to get into trouble from their employers because they are doing the right treatment, but they're not able to bill for it, right? So a lot of you have asked me in the past, like, how does my practice set up? How is it that I run my practice? I don't accept insurance. And this is one of the many, 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 many reasons why. When I see my patient, much like Curtis, I'm saying, what does my patient need from me today? So whether they need 1 minute of joint mobilization, whether they need 24 minutes, not 23, of therapeutic exercise, whether they need neuromuscular reeducation, all these treatment strategies that if I were working with insurance, I'd have to be, it's ridiculous, right? All I know is my patients are going to have me for 1 hour and we're going to get stuff done, right? And it's according to what the patient's needs are that day. Yeah, right? So this is where some of this breakdown, and with doctors, guys, with your doctors, it's very similar. They have to bill a certain way. So sometimes they might tell you, well, we can't talk about that issue because I can't bill you for it. And I got to keep my lights on in my clinic. Right. So hopefully this is giving you just a little bit of insight as to what's going on. We got a lot of comments coming in. Let me. Susan says, pat yourself on the back, Curtis. You enjoy it. You deserve it. Great achievements. Brian says, I just moved and my new primary care really did not even mention my left below the knee amputation until I did. I asked about specialty doctors and he said, when we need them, we can refer you. My past PCP was totally involved in my care, regardless of limb or anything else. And guys, with your primary cares, I'm seeing this nowadays. You're more old school doctors. Like I have an uncle who practices, he's been in practice for 40, almost 50 years now. And he is used to doing a little bit of everything. He will address all the needs and he will refer out once it passes his scope of knowledge. But he's like, that's my job as your primary care, family practice, internal medicine, is to know a little bit of everything and to be able to manage everything, under that umbrella. Some don't practice that way. Gwen sees, unfortunately, I'm seeing, a lot more pressure on our therapists for productivity, and clinicians are losing their passion. Yes. The burnout rate in therapy, guys, I'm wagering, I'm not looking at any research statistics, but I would wager it's actually higher than nursing burnout. I would put my money on that one. Kay says, as an occupational therapist, I left an insurance-based practice, limited who I could see, but on the other hand, I could give better care. Yeah. Steve at Brooks Rehab is an awesome PT professional. He goes above and beyond. I fell on my residual limb in the bathroom one time and he just came in and just massaged the strained muscle. Yeah. For an hour. Yeah. Let's see. We got Ernest. Hey, from San Diego, Virginia or California. Okay. I don't know.
VA.
Virginia. VA. Oh, VA, from San Diego, VA. Thank you. Not enough, diesel in this coffee. Andrea says, and this is why the doctor wants you to come in the office and not just call. They can't bill for a call. And they have all those office workers to deal with the insurance. So the doc needs to bill to cover their salaries. And a lot of these doctors and clinicians, guys, we have to make a living. And unfortunately, the system is kind of pigeonholing us in this manner. Susan says, my GP, general practitioner, has never acknowledged to me that I'm an amputee. I see an amputee specialist for anything to do with my residual limb. Okay. So guys, I was kind of thinking about it tonight, Curtis, and I figured, I was like, you know what? There's 3 kinds of clinicians out there. There's the clinician that probably should have never gone into healthcare, right? They went into healthcare, and that's actually a very small percentage in my opinion. They went into healthcare for not the right reasons, right? And they just don't care, right? But we have those people in every profession, the bad apples, and those are actually very, very small. Then you have the bright, new, shiny new penny, idealistic clinician, right? Who just is in the first 5 years of their practice licensing, and they want to do everything to help their patients, right? I know that was me, right? And you see the needs of the patient and you see that the needs are not being addressed. And as a clinician, you're trying. Then you have the third kind of clinician. And I think this is where the majority of us fall into this category, that we started off as that shiny new idealist clinician. And we realized that there are so many problems going on with our healthcare system. We're not going to be able to solve them all. And unfortunately, our employers are putting a lot of pressure on us, and we're just trying to find that balance where we can help our patients as much as we can while still keeping our jobs, right? So Curtis, what do you think on my little classification system there?
I mean, I think I'd agree with you. I think that first one, I would just call them the uninspired. I think they maybe got into it for the right reasons, and then something happened that they lost their empathy, or they lost their passion, or they never stumbled on it to begin with. I know that first category, I was blessed with two amazing CIs that then became my coworkers, and they stoked that fire to build programs and to do everything I could. But then I saw it slowly over time as insurance changed how my clinic was to start pushing productivity and changing that extra time for patients. Those two CIs, coworkers, one went on to be a manager who I thought would then help fight the fight. And then things slowly changed. And then the other one, she went on, her family grew. And so it was actually cheaper to stay home and manage kids and pay for childcare, because I don't have a kid, but I hear that is quite expensive. So I'm gonna have to beg the either the mother-in-law or the mom to move closer one of these days, or I don't know what we're gonna do. But it is very challenging in healthcare to remain bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and feel like you can take on the world when the traditional role continues to push more and more onto your plate. That's where I feel so very fulfilled and blessed in my new role, where I can come up with all these ideas, and then the next email is, all right, how are you going to accomplish it? Rather than, no, we don't have a budget for it. Let's come up with a game plan, and Curt, okay, we can put it on a docket and see what we can do, versus no, like that's not in your scope. So it's been very fulfilling and fun to think of how can we partner and what can we build? How can you make a change? Because I feel like I have that platform again. So.
And many of the clinicians, guys, those of us who are lucky enough to kind of break out of that factory mold and just say, okay, I don't want to become a burnout statistic. As a professional, clinical professional, we have something that we have to offer our patient population. How else can we use our skills? Yeah. Right? And you start to see either therapists, we branch off into our little concierge type. Some people call it the concierge type clinics. Others go into the role like Curtis has created a beautifully unique role for himself as a physical therapist consulting. I'm doing this crazy show that people are still somehow tuning into for whatever reason, right? But this is a sneak peek, guys. This is kind of the reality of what's going on. And it's not to say, like, I know we must sound like we're grousing a lot right now, but there are some things as a patient that you can do to help with this situation, to help with your situation. Patricia says many of the doctors in, sorry, I'm like hitting all the wrong buttons. Many of the doctors in Naples, Florida have gone concierge so they don't have to deal with insurance. Oh yeah, no. I've seen some doctors, and it's a price. It's pricey because you're paying out of pocket for these services, but then you're also going to receive that care that you need, right? Susan's like, I got a new GP and he's brand new and shiny. Oh boy. Let's see. Brian says it's hard on clinicians as amputees to navigate the system too at times. Yes. Yep. So a lot to do with insurance. And guys, this is something like on a personal level, I haven't really shared a whole lot, but one of my parents has been in the hospital for the past 3 to 4 months, right? And it's been obviously a big strain on the family. And I'm helping my mom take care of my dad. And one of the things that has really come to the forefront of my mind is, how little our patients are equipped to deal with the system, right? My mother is an absolutely brilliant woman. She's a very intelligent woman, and she is probably one of the hardest advocates I've ever seen. Like, she advocates for my dad, and we are, working to help my dad. But there have been so many bumps and scrapes along the way where my mom is sitting there going, but why is this happening? This doesn't make sense. Why aren't they doing X, Y, Z? Why doesn't anybody care? Right? And it's me just sitting there going, Mom, I'm so sorry to tell you this, but this is the reality of this healthcare system. And this is how we have to navigate it and go this way to get Dad the resources we need for this, and how we can get the doctor to listen to us this way and it's been you know, and I just, if anything that's come to my mind is just like, oh my gosh, my poor patient families, you know, this is really, and if they don't have someone who's in the healthcare field to help them navigate the system, right? How overwhelming that must be. And I know you've had your fair share of working with patient families, Curtis, in the past and trying to help them navigate as well.
Oh yeah, my
So,
grandma, she fractured her lumbar vertebra, or actually thoracic vertebra, last year at Christmas time, and my mom was calling me, and I'm trying to tell her what to do, and she's getting nowhere. And so, I was so nosy, I logged into her MyChart account on my phone. You know, grandma gave me permission, you know, and found her PT's name, who actually I went to school with. And I was that person that then found him on Facebook because we're Facebook friends. I'm like, hey man, you've got my grandma. I need you to take exceptional care of her. And that connection then gave us a route to then connect us to the doctor, to where they gave us more time. Because my grandma, she's 92 and she was confused. They gave her way too strong of pain meds because she's, you know, she's 4'9". She's a small lady. And when she's out of it and stressed, she doesn't focus. And that was stressing everybody out, because then they thought, oh gosh, she's showing early signs of dementia. And just because she wasn't focusing on what was going on. And then because they thought she was having neuro signs, they were getting all concerned. And it was just because she was all bent out of shape. Once things calmed down, they discussed the treatment plan with her, and they got a game plan. Okay, we're gonna give you, we got things figured out. This whole year she's been doing great. You know, she came here to Indy twice. We had a great time. Took her out to eat. She doesn't have to wear the brace anymore. She completed PT, but all it took was somebody actually slowing things down and explaining the treatment plan, the diagnosis, and just making sure that things were handled correctly when things were so frantic, because it's Christmas. Grandma's not going to be home for Christmas. The whole family's freaking out. And it was very, very challenging. But without that one connection point to help that out, you know, the whole family was just running rampant. So, and we're a
yep.
family of very stressed out, very chaotic people. So kudos to that PT for slowing everybody down at that one point.
And this, I know many of you all can tell me very similar stories of your own care or care with your loved ones. Bob says Curt is doing a great job for us here in Indy. Thank you, Kate, for your kind words. So guys, you know, what can you do? And right there, when Curtis said about his grandmother receiving too many pain medications, that's where I'm going to start. And it's been a long time since I've done a show on pharmacology and all the medications, which I probably need to do an update on that show. And I might have to pull you in for that one, Curtis. But that is a huge one, guys. Medication. So now that we've done all that, what's wrong with our healthcare system, now we're going to start talking about what you can do to help your own situation and possibly your loved one if you're the caregiver right now, right? So the first thing is medications, right? I did home health for 8 years, very long years, right? And as the primary clinician on many of these cases, right, I had to fill out a 30-page paper OASIS form. It's a nightmare of a form to fill out on my patients, right? And I had to take down medications, and I had to do what's called medication reconciliation, meaning I had to check every single one of their medications to make sure there was no cross-contamination, no conflicting medications, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I can tell you guys, when I would walk into a home and my patient would bring to me 2 boxes of half-empty bottles and not knowing what medications they were taking, my heart would just drop to the bottom of my shoes, because as a responsible clinician, I knew I was going to have to sit there for 2 hours untangling everything, and we weren't going to get any therapy done, because I knew that if they were taking the wrong medication, it could hurt them or kill them. And I cannot tell you how many medical errors I picked up there. The flip side to that was when I would knock on the door and the wife or the husband of my patient would open the door and say, I have a medication list all updated with all the doses and I've been keeping track of everything. I was just like, oh, bless you, child, right? Because for me, that meant that this patient was on the ball, or their loved one, right? And we could go through each medication and see, okay, is this still updated? Is this still valid? Especially when there are multiple doctors prescribing these medications. Okay, guys, so the first, probably one of the best things that you can do for yourself, learn your medications. Learn your medications. And guys, you don't have to be a pharmacist. It's late. You don't have to be a pharmacist. You don't even have to know how to pronounce some of these medications, right? You just have to know This medication, it's my heart medication. This medication is my blood pressure medication. This medication is for my rheumatoid arthritis, right? And just know these medications. And especially when it comes to your pain medications, right, guys? Those of you who are on muscle relaxers, guys, one of the mistakes I found is they were giving my father muscle relaxers 4 times a day. 4 times a day. And if I would not have checked his medication list every week that he was in the hospital, he would have continued to receive this. He was not supposed to be receiving this. This was in hospital. Okay, guys? So ask questions. If you don't know the name of your medication and you don't know what it's for, you need to call your doctor and they need to tell you. They need to tell you what it's for, and you don't have to get complicated. It's for your heart, to help your heart beat a little bit slower, okay? You need to know the side effects. You need to know what the bad side effects are, right? And then you also need to know, how long should I be on this medication? Is this a medication I'm going to be on, like your blood pressure medication, presumably for the rest of your life, possibly, or your diabetes medication, or is this just a short-term medication, right? Just doing this, guys, is going to help your healthcare and the quality of your healthcare, especially when you have multiple doctors. So, Curtis, I'm going to zip it up for a minute. I'm going to let you comment on that one.
I mean, that's a great point to share with everybody. Understanding what your meds are doing to you and how many you should be taking, and taking them on time, knowing taken with food, how they're going to affect you and what the side effects are is so important. So many people would come to PT and say, oh, I feel kind of funny, and it's because I didn't eat, or, I didn't know I was supposed to eat with this pill. It can really, really affect the outcomes of everything, because then your PT session's messed up. So then we send you home, or we try to make do with the PT session, which eats up some of your authorized visits. But we can't keep sending you home because then we have to discharge you. So having a good mind of knowing what's going to go on, because pharmaceuticals do crazy things to your body.
Yes.
I know I'm on a bit of a stimulant now to help with appetite suppressant and weight loss. And if I don't eat after a half hour after I take that, my stomach turns sideways and I am not in a good way. So I have to make sure I eat breakfast afterwards. And bless my nurse practitioner that I got assigned when I just randomly signed up for a physical last year. She has changed my life this year. I mean, I had a great primary care doctor beforehand, and then got lined up with this nurse practitioner, and she's been an advocate for me all year. I love going in and talking to her, and it just really shows how having the right medical team for you can just change your life. And I feel comfortable talking to her. So if I have a question about my meds, I can send her a message on my chart. And I think you have to have that relationship with your doctor to trust them. Be like, hey, how long do I take my blood pressure pill? What's the name of my blood pressure pill? Hey, does my Ramipril, interact with my Losartan or whatever combines? In PT school, we just get a very brief pharmacology, enough to know what's going to be dangerous if you're mixing 2 and 2 together. But doctors, the system with EMR is a little better than it used to be, but beforehand, they don't communicate. And so-and-so will prescribe this, and then they'll prescribe this, and the interactions may not always be checked, or they might be, but not close enough to really be on point. So keep that list up to date, keep it with you. Whenever you go to see the doctor, make sure they're checking it, because you want to make sure what's going inside your body is going to be beneficial and be for the best outcome. And don't feel like you're a nuisance, because healthcare is a consumer-based industry where they are there to take care of you. It is all about your health, because if something happens to you, it's on them. So
yeah. And guys, and we need to do a whole new show on pharmacology, because we're long overdue. But just as a for example, guys, I'm my care with a couple of different doctors is in the same healthcare system. So I'm not even in different hospital systems. And whenever I go in to see my doctors, I always have them look at my meds, and sure enough, there'll always be something on there that I'm like, nope, not taking that. Nope, haven't taken that in over a year. Nope, not taking that, even though we update it every single time. So guys, it's one of those things where you have got to be on top of it. And I'll tell you what, when you're on top of your medications and you know the ins and outs of your medications, everything else starts to fall into place, because then okay, this isn't right. I need to go see this person. And I like what Curtis said about the ARNP, guys. It's, MD, obviously, ARNP, PA, physician's assistant. Okay, finding whether it's a family practice or internal medicine, whoever your general primary care practitioner is, that would be the number one person that you really need to make sure is on top of things. And it's not because they're necessarily the most brilliant doctor and they can diagnose anything across the specialties. No, it's the one that knows how to coordinate your care and understands the importance of coordinating your care, and also understands that they need to also communicate with your other doctors. Okay. So this is something that, guys, you need that primary care. The same way you interview your prosthetist, or you should be interviewing your prosthetist and your physical therapist, right? The primary care doctor needs to be someone who can really put it together for you. Yeah. Brian says also interaction with other mental health meds that your doctor may not be aware of. Yes. And guys, every time you go into the doctor's office, like Curtis said, take your medication list with you. Have them continually updated in the EMR and the records. See, Ben Gregory says, I'm 2 miles in 1.5 hours, at least 3 times a week. Curb stairs, awesome. Loving my mobility again. Strong word, Ben Gregory. Let's see. Kay says, on an iPhone, if you have one, there's a health app. EMTs check this. Ooh, I didn't know that. I should know that, right? And so it's a good place to keep all those med lists up to date, as well as other things. And guys, it can be, because as you guys know, me and technology I didn't even know about that health app. But just as simple as having it up on the fridge. When I was working in home health, and I would get everything straightened out, I would write everything. And that way, if we did have to call the EMT services, and there were plenty of times where I had to, we had that med list on the fridge ready to go. Harsh, you are awesome. Thank you. So what are some other things that you guys can do to help with this healthcare system and navigating the healthcare system? Knowing your rights. Knowing your patient rights. And when I mean patient rights, yes, we have our federal and rights, but more about your rights with your insurance. Okay. How many visits are you allowed of physical therapy a year, right? What services are you allowed? Is it a combination of physical therapy and occupational therapy? If you're looking at a surgery, are you going to have an option of going to inpatient rehab or home health services or a skilled nursing facility, right? Learning the system. And we've done a few shows about that, which probably need to update as well there. Okay. But just learning the system. What are the different names of places? What's the difference between an acute care stay where you're staying in the hospital versus going to inpatient rehab versus going to a skilled nursing facility or a nursing home long-term care? And these are things that I'm just thinking of now, because with my own, like I said, my own father's care, I'm having to help educate my mom and my dad on, this is what our options are. This is what we're pushing for. This is the criteria, right? So things like this that you may run into in the future, this is another part that you need to educate yourself on as well. Curtis, you got anything else to add right there?
I think a big thing, so a really interesting article that I've been studying, it's all about shared decision making. And it's all about the patient being involved with the decisions in healthcare, and the whole team discussing things. So the PT discussing with the doctor, the patient discussing with the PT. So that way everyone is involved when a decision's made, either prosthetic wise, orthotic wise, therapy wise, where they should go. And it shows a huge amount of success or benefit to everyone. Doctors are more satisfied with their job, or all the healthcare professionals are more satisfied with their job, but patients feel like their overall treatment is way better. They're less disgruntled, they're less mad at other individuals, because they feel like they're not just told what they're due, so they're more compliant in their care because they're active. They're not just being told, go here, go there. They're treated like humans. So be involved in your care, advocate for yourselves, know your rights, so that way you can be present when the doctors are saying, hey, we think you should go to this skilled nursing facility. Then you say, well, my insurance covers X day. I'd like to go to maybe this facility. Or, hey, do they cover me to go to inpatient rehab? Because I think, 10 days at this place could be really beneficial, or it's closer to home. My family could visit me better. So you have to be your own advocate. Mark, that's a great point. You have to fight for yourself, or have somebody in your corner that will fight for you. I know that's one thing my mom did, fighting tooth and nail for my grandma, because they weren't going to let, my grandma was going to be too polite to say, I need something. My mom was going to be there saying everything that I texted to her to say, using any medical lingo she could, act like she knew what was going on. So
absolutely. Yeah. And So it was interesting. A couple of days ago, I went in just for a checkup visit on something. And I'm so used to, like, with my dad, with my patients, like, I have a mouth and I know how to use it. But then when it comes to my own care, right? I went to see my doctor, fantastic doctor, but he's definitely one of those, like, I've only got 5 minutes to see and then I'm out the door. And I just froze. And because, I was just pressured and I'm like, okay. And he left and I'm like, oh, I had so many questions and talking points I needed to go over and I didn't. So guys, as silly as this sounds, write down your questions. Okay. Write down your talking points. Text them to yourselves. Like, guys, I know how to use my mouth. I know how to talk and defend myself. And I completely froze because the doctor was in a hurry and I just kind of went off of his vibe like that. And I froze. And there was a lot of important things. And now I got to wait another 2 months for that appointment, right? To get back in and get these questions asked. Okay. So if you're someone like that when it comes to your own care, you freeze like a deer in the headlights, you got to write stuff down and don't be shy about saying, wait a second, I'm not done yet. I got my list here. Right. Or, okay, take someone with you who will be your advocate. And there's nothing wrong with that, guys. There's nothing wrong with that. My mother is a phenomenal advocate. My dad, not so much of an advocate for himself. Right. So it's my mom has accompanied my dad to all of his appointments for that reason, because she knows that he's just going to go, okay, and not ask the questions that need to be asked, right? That's just how he is. So guys, all these little tricks will help you in terms of getting that care that you do need, right? Susan says, I write all my questions down. Yeah. And guys, for me, I love it when my patients have their questions written down. I love it because I'm just like, I am sitting here until we answer all of your questions, right? So, yeah. Keitha says, even when in the hospital, have them tell you each medication they're giving you and blood products as well. Absolutely. Absolutely. And the nurses are, in some hospitals, they're required to do that. When they give you your medications, they're supposed to be telling you, this is your water pill, this is your blood pressure pill, this is your vitamin supplement, and they're supposed to be doing that. If they're not, you need to ask them, okay? Because a lot of these pills look alike, a lot of errors happen, right? Patricia says, I go in the doctor with a list of my questions and hand it to him, and as he walks in the room, and then he has to address them. Yeah. And again, guys, you might run into those doctors. Like I said, my doctor, the one that I went to go see, phenomenal doctor. He's just one of those hurried guys. So I know I just have to get those questions down on paper. I want to stay with that particular doctor. All right, let's see. Lisa says, the other aspect of taking these prescription medications, if you're forgetting to take them, that could be a sign you don't need them as much or need them at all. You know your body better than everybody else. I will say this, Lisa, yes and no. If you feel like there's a medication that's not working out for you, then yes, you need to bring that to your doctor's attention. As far as stopping a medication without asking a doctor first, though, that's something I do kind of have to stick to and say, because some of these medications, for example, prednisone, right? Steroid, powerful anti-inflammatory. If you just stop that cold turkey, you're going to send yourself into an adrenal crisis, right? Which is life-threatening. So some of these medications, they cannot be stopped cold turkey, or you have to wean yourself off. But by all means, Lisa, yes, if you feel like there's a medication that you're like, why am I on this? And nobody's explaining to me why, then yes, absolutely. Because I do feel like there's a lot of medications out there that might not necessarily be needed, and you can have alternatives. Bill says, I keep an updated med list in my wallet in case of an emergency. Let's see. You have to be firm and upfront with your primary. Absolutely. And don't be afraid for those questions. Oh, yes, Lisa. So she says, not stopping on your own. Tell your doctor you want to wean off. Absolutely. Can gabapentin be done stopped cold turkey? No. A lot of these, yes. If you're really getting bad side effects, guys, then you need to call the doctor. You need to call the doctor. There may be some medications that the doctor will tell you, yes, stop it immediately, because the side effects could be life-threatening. But like I said, and the only one I keep thinking about right now is the prednisone. If you stop that cold turkey, you're going to end up in the ER and in a lot of trouble. Okay. So, call. That's what you need to do. And you need to call and let them know there's a potential, side effect here I'm not sure about. And again, it goes back to when you're assigned a new medication, ask the doctor, when am I supposed to call you? Right? What is a side effect that is not supposed to be happening that means something really bad is going on? And what should I do? That's another great question to ask, is saying, should I stop it immediately? Do I call you? What do I do? Okay, I know it's a lot of things to keep track of, guys, but once you, again, when you start learning your medications, a lot of things start falling into place. Yeah? All right. All right, and I'm going to take advantage, guys. If you don't mind, this is my shameless plug for the evening. I started a new texting service. Hopefully some of you received my little love message this evening to let you know that I was going live. Many of you have indicated to me that you try to find me sometimes live and you just can't find me because sometimes Facebook likes to play around with the algorithms, right? So guys, if you text COSITALKS, all capital letters, one word like that, and text it to this number, that is my new texting service. And the really cool thing about the service is you can text me back, which is kind of cool. It's another way you guys can communicate with me. I don't sell your information. I'm not going to spam you with a bunch of text messages. It's basically just a once a week, maybe twice, to say, hey guys, going live, this is what's going on. So if you're interested, please sign up. You didn't, you didn't get it, Haravamsh. I don't know if internationally, if this will work internationally. Okay, good. So the rest of you got that tonight. All right. Curtis, did I miss anything? We've talked about a lot tonight.
We covered a ton.
A lot.
No, yeah. I think one thing I did read in the article I just wanted to touch on as well, and not to double back on it.
No, go ahead.
So it was another article that fed into it, is sometimes doctors perceive individuals with a disability as already having a lower quality of life, so they don't promote or talk about wellness and exercise and some other, like, you know, bigger item things to kind of protect or preserve quality of life. So again, you guys have to advocate, you know, talking about health management and all those things. You know, they don't always try to get people into wellness programs and talk about exercise and fitness if someone's already limited, and you've got to fight for those kind of activities and talk to your doctor. I know one of the big things that the doctors were always excited about to get a message from me is when I would tell them about the patient's personal goals of, hey, so-and-so wants to stand or walk at their daughter's wedding. Or I actually helped one patient, same patient got me into prosthetics. I went to his daughter's or granddaughter's graduation at Ball State, so that way he could stand and clap for her when she walked across the stage, because, you know, missing both his legs, his wife wasn't strong enough to help him stand. So I gave up a Saturday to help him do it. And I think I sent his doctor the video of it, and he sent back, hey, that is so great. When you tell your doctor your personal goals and what you're into, not that they only see people per diagnosis, but it kind of humanizes you, and it lets you know, or lets them remember why they got into medicine, because they want to help people. And so that really can kind of help them remember they want to preserve those quality of lives, remember that they're treating individuals, and they want those people to have the best quality of life possible. So share those little personal stories that you're comfortable with, but let doctors know how much you're fighting, that you're doing the best you can. Because I always felt that when I told the docs that what my patients were doing in the clinic and what they were doing at home, that they were getting a little better treatment. The notes were definitely better. The personalized notes were better because they knew I was reading them. But yeah, those personal relationships are key to get the best treatment. So
absolutely, guys. And again, you know, the clinicians are humans, and that's, we do try to find where's the humanity in our patients, you know, and sometimes you have to put that in front of us. Sometimes you have to do that. So I love that. Van Gregory says, both you and Curt shook your head no for stopping gabapentin cold turkey. Will you please take 30 seconds and elaborate? So we got 30 seconds, Curt.
Gabapentin takes a while to build up in your system. And so it is kind of a tapering effect when you're weaning off of it. So I actually had to help a patient through this once, and it was actually a systematic tapering of dosage, learning from his neurologist. So if you're coming off of it, you definitely want to slowly do it, just very controlled. It is a neural depressant. Going too quick could cause some serious side effects.
Withdrawal is usually one of the biggest things, you know, with some of these medications, guys, whether it's pain medication, something like gabapentin, you know, the withdrawal effect is really, really intense, very intense.
Lyrica, any of those.
Yep. So I think, holy cow, we covered a lot. Thanks, guys, for all the shout outs. So guys, please, and I keep forgetting to say this during the show, at the end of the show, Facebook loves to play tricks on me, right? It's just what it does. So if you guys can just take the time, if you even, all of you just share this once, we can really help spread the word about this show. So if you guys just don't mind, after we close the show down, share this out to one of your support groups, or if you feel comfortable enough sharing it out to your homepage, I would really, really appreciate it. It helps get the word of mouth out to new viewers and new folks who might need some of the information that was on this show. But I do want to take this time to thank you so much, Curtis, for bringing this to my attention, this article to my attention, and coming on this show tonight. You just kind of jumped into the hot seat really amazingly. And I hope this is not the last time you're on this show. We're going to have a repeat at some point in the future, I think.
Oh no, as soon as I get my mug, I'll be ready. So
you're going to be ready. All right, guys. So show Curtis some love. Say thank you. And thank you guys for all of your, for all the comments this evening. It was a lot of really wonderful discussion this evening. Thank you to Amplitude again for publishing this article. Larry, if you're watching, man, I'm going to have you on the show. Don't worry about it. We're going to talk about this a little bit more later on. But guys, as always, thank you for letting us be a part of your lives this evening. I will see you next week. Will be, oh my gosh, next week is my Thanksgiving show. Okay. I almost forgot about that, guys. So as of next week, and you guys can get a jump start on this. Every Thanksgiving for the past 4 years that I've been broadcasting, I read out what everyone is thankful for. Okay. Little cliche, little cheesy, but I love doing it. So guys, go ahead if you want, tag me, and I'm going to send out a post saying, what are you thankful for? And we're going to talk all about that on next Wednesday's show. So with that being said, guys, thank you for letting me be a part of your lives this evening. Have a wonderful time. We'll see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. God bless, guys.